such a testing moment. It's like it's like
you would.
How much can you trust me with this one thing that you deeply desired for that?
Hey everyone, welcome to our podcast, She Talks. It's your host Belle, and
Queen.
on today's episode, we're going to be discussing trust.
Yes, trust.
Yes, we'll be unpacking what trust really means, why it's so essential in today's world, and how we can become better at recognizing and building trust through God's word.
Exactly.
We're so excited to dive into all things trust. Yeah, so grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's get started.
Let's get started.
Get started.
For goodness sake, what is trust? Like, we've always
What
heard
is
this.
Trust?
Yes, trust. What
Yes,
is
we
trust?
hear it all the time.
Like, I know, and I feel like when people say trust, it's just like, okay, something that you understand or you already know what it means, but do you actually know what it means?
Yeah.
What is trust, Christopher?
Let me see. Trust. To me, trust is the belief,
Okay,
or confidence that someone or something is reliable. Yes.
Yeah,
that's trust to me.
Exactly. And this
it's sorry.
Go ahead.
It's what allows us to make ourselves vulnerable.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes.
I like that. Very true. Like, what I was trying to say earlier is, this whole definition, this topic of trust is something that I literally had to submit myself to God to get an understanding, or to actually get a definition of, and the way he defined trust to me was, or is, knowing the beginning of something, and as well knowing the end.
Yes.
So basically having knowledge of a journey, in my own instance, a journey, and still trusting, or still relying, or still depending, or still surrendering,
being vulnerable
to God, to Yahweh. And
doesn't necessarily have to be God.
Exactly, it can be man, but in this aspect,
how
I was taught was relying and depending on God, because this is like, I was really confused on how do I apply, or what is even trust. We hear it, trust me, and it's like, trust you, like, okay, yes. I know what it means to trust, but do I really know what it means to trust? And that's how, like, God literally took me. He took me into this quiet place, and he told me to get a pen and a paper, and he made this definition. But with that being said, we talk about trust. How do we identify trust? What are the attributes of trust, Christabel? Like, have you ever been able to identify trust?
First of all, in its definition, it says reliability. So that should be the first attribute.
Word.
Yes, you need to, someone has to be reliable for you to be able to trust that person. Because it's an unawareness for you to put your trust in something or someone. You're not aware of the outcome of it. So for you to trust, you need to know, like, if this person is reliable, accountable too.
True.
So that's an attribute of trust.
For me, I like to see it like another attribute for me, or how I like to see trust is like consistency. It was
word.
Consistency is very deep. Is a deep word for me, because when I was being taught this idea of trust, it was more of showing me how, the word reliable, yes, the reliable information was consistent with the reliable information, from the beginning to the end. So it was a consistent information. It was something that was connected for me, There was a certain question I was looking for. I was asking God about in this time of my life, and he was telling me, he was teaching me what trust is and why I should trust him. And then he was telling me that everything he told me from the beginning of time, for example, the Old Testament, and the New Testament, gives us reason to trust the Bible. because the Old Testament has information that is reliable and consistent to what is the information in the New Testament.
And we definitely have to read about this.
Yeah, no, it's literally it's literally the the what's the word? It's the conclusion, is the the meaning you get, or like the pattern you see. If you read your Bible, you'll be able to see that everything that was mentioned in the Old Testament somehow, somewhere has a cross-reference into the New Testament. And because there's this, cross-reference, because there's this, similarity, people say, oh, Jesus is the most important, subject in the New Testament, but he was not mentioned in the Old Testament. No, wrong. If you check in the book of Isaiah and even some Proverbs, you see the mentioning of the Son of God, the sacrificial lamb, a Messiah coming to save the people, and this just shows the reliability of the Bible and how consistent it is. So for me, I would say one of the attributes of trust, or the reason why I was able to trust God in in this my process and even in the Bible, was because it was consistent and, like you said, reliable.
That is word right there.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah. And we can also see this in like some of the examples, like example with Abraham.
Yes.
Abraham. Abraham he
got tested.
Exactly.
Abraham's faith was tested by God. God asked him to sacrifice his son Isaac, and Abraham obeyed.
Yes.
Surprisingly.
Yes. Example. But back to Abraham. So Abraham was he was tested, and in that testing period, you could see that he was able to submit. He was, first of all, we don't highlight how important hearing God is when it comes to trusting and actually relying on the information, because you can trust the wrong information. This is why it's very important to make sure that whatever you're listening to is also reliable. That's what I like when you said reliable. Abraham was able to know this person that is telling me to, like the voice I'm hearing that is telling me to kill my son, is still God. If he was not consistent, and if he didn't know how reliable God is, he would not have known the voice of God. He would have or maybe it would have been someone else telling him to go and kill his son, and then he will kill the son thinking, oh, God said I should kill my son, and then God will be like, I didn't tell you. And then this whole idea of confusion. And then you see the importance of reliability, being able to trust what you're saying. At the end of the day, we're still using that word. Trust is interchangeable, honestly. Being able to hold on to this setting instruction, being able to be consistent. Oh, the God that has been here for me since the beginning of time, he will also be there for me in the end of time. And he was able to apply this information, and that's why you see that he was able to pass this test. He brought his son Isaac to the altar table, ready to slaughter the child. And God, just in that little moment of surrender, in that little 5 seconds of surrender, ready to chop that baby's head off.
Do not do that, please. No.
But ready to chop that baby's head off. And God brought a sacrifice. He is so awesome. You can see his character just showed he is reliable and he is consistent.
How do we apply trust? That's one question. How do we apply trust? I would say, when I first heard that question, the first thing that came to my mind was surrender. That's the first way to apply trust. For you to surrender your will, your understanding, it's a lot of sacrifice and vulnerability for you to put your trust in someone, because you're sacrificing your time, your hopes, and your whatnot just for that, for the person to come through for you. So
not just even surrender coming through for you, but just being able to rely on a word given to you, an information, even an action. When we talk about trust with God, we can also play the same principle with the relationships we have with humans, the relationships we have with ourselves. When you trust yourself, you are able to look at yourself and say, oh, have I been reliable with this? And the only way you can trust yourself is when you are consistent and when you yourself become reliable. You can't trust yourself if you're not consistent. So another way to apply trust again is also by being consistent. The importance of being consistent, because if you're not consistent, nobody, even you, will not trust yourself. If you're used to, for example, are used to running late for something, you're always running late to work, your boss is yelling at you, you're never on time, you're always wearing one slippers in the middle of the road and carrying the other one, like if you're in that kind of position, you would not trust yourself enough to tell somebody, oh, I'll be here by 9 o'clock sharp. But then the moment you start showing up for yourself, waking up on time, keeping up to time, talking yourself, when you've done wrong, telling yourself, oh, I can do better, and being consistent, that is the moment you will be able to trust yourself, eventually trust another person, and ultimately trust God, because God is reliable, so there's no need for us to worry about that. But it's ourselves that we should worry about.
That's very true.
So but I want to add one more thing. Do you think you can trust people the way you trust God?
That question has answered itself.
Exactly.
That's a definite no. You cannot put your trust in another person, because the person is just as imperfect as you are.
Exactly. It's the uncertainty, the fact that a human is never certain 100%. So
that's why it's a leap of faith.
I feel like when you're trusting people,
you have to put your faith in God first.
Exactly. Exactly. When you're trusting people, it's like a 50% chance. Every man has evil. As much as righteous as we can be, as holy as we can try to be, as even though we submit and surrender ourselves fully to God, we still battle with sin in little minor ways, and that sin is a proof, is a sign, is an evidence of our weakness. And because there is weakness, there is inconsistency.
You're about to make
exactly
mistakes.
And there's inconsistency means that there are times where a man will fail you. You will even fail yourself.
Exactly.
You will fail yourself. Talk less of another man that you have no control over.
That's why you have to pray for you to put your trust in someone, because obviously there are situations where you find yourself trusting people. Like it's innate, like it's inevitable. Like you have to trust some people in some certain situations. But for you to do that, you have to put God first.
Exactly.
You have to pray about that situation.
Center of every human relationship.
And if you trust God enough, I think that situation you would be less troubled about it.
Exactly, like the idea of marriage.
Exactly.
For two to work together, they have to come into agreement under Christ. And the moment they come into agreement under Christ is like the middle ground. The only way you can trust another man is by relying and trusting in God. God will give you directions on what to do in certain times that you fail. There's sometimes God will convict me and be like, oh, Vanessa, wake up, go and apologize, you did something wrong, or ask for forgiveness, or do this better the next time. And that makes me more consistent, and eventually makes peace amongst men, amongst ourselves, even within myself too. And that's literally the recipe or the secret ingredient, Jesus.
Yes, beautiful. So I guess we've finally come to the end of this podcast, this episode. And
oh my God, like I just love being here. I just love talking with you guys. I enjoy it so much.
I hope you enjoy it as much as we do, guys.
We honestly do.
I hope they enjoy it as much
as they do. I'm sure you do. You don't have a choice. But yeah,
so we love you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in once in a while. Thank you for our return subscribers.
Yes.
and
we love you
appreciate you guys so much.
so
we see you,
and
also
praying for
we're
you.
praying for you as well.
And
yes, definitely we are. And
yeah, so don't forget to like, subscribe,
share, subscribe, and hit that post. Hit the notification. Yeah, the notification bell down below. Sorry. And leave a comment down below. It's She Talks. And
tell us how you feel. Tell us moments in your life where you had to learn how to trust again.
Yes,
because I'm sure a lot of us have had our trust broken once in a while. So
yes, that would be beautiful.
Yeah,
that would be beautiful.
And we'll be reading your comments and replying them too. So
right. So it's Belle
and Oye,
and we'll see you in the next podcast, the next episode.
Okay then.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.